Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss conclusions I've drawn from studying American history. You don't have to agree with a particular conclusion or any of them, but you should know about these topics that I'm discussing to be conversant in American history. And so I'm going to begin, and we're gonna work on this. So after a tough ratification contest, the resultant Constitution gave new meaning to the term "quote federal" by setting up a "quote sovereign union of sovereign states." The federal government is supreme but limited by the Constitution. During the ratification conventions, the anti-federalists used the lack of a Bill of Rights as a point of contention. Massachusetts Federalists agreed to a Bill of Rights, and the Constitution was ratified there. Maryland's convention also proposed a Bill of Rights. Ratification was won. Virginia's ratification of the Constitution was bitter and hard, with the Federalist side represented by Washington, Madison, Colonel Henry Lee, and John Marshall, lined up against the anti-Federalists George Mason, Richard Henry Lee, and Patrick Henry. The ratification convention almost convened without Madison because he nearly lost his bid to be voted into the convention, as many devoutly religious people in Virginia were suspicious of the Constitution's ability to protect their religious liberty. Baptists in particular remember being horsewhipped and thrown into jail for preaching contrary to the established church. Henry hated the entire Constitution, saying it squinted of monarchy and fearing that the American president would push toward being a king. Pastor John Leland was finally convinced by Madison, and he was sent with Leland's written approval for ratification. James Madison's arguments for the Constitution carried the day, and Patrick Henry graciously accepted defeat and promised to try to change the wrongs that he saw in the document in a lawful manner. There was no counter revolution or government in exile set up in a neighboring country. It was done orderly and decently, in contrast to many other countries' efforts at constitutional government. The Confederation Congress finally declared the new Constitution, duly ratified, arranged for the first presidential and congressional elections, and appointed March 4th, 1789, for the first presidential term to begin. Washington didn't learn that he officially been chosen president until mid-April, and then the old Congress made New York the nation's first capital under the new government. As Morrison and others point out, this greatest of history's political documents was a monumental achievement never to be equaled again. Quote, the federal Constitution was the capital achievement of the creative period, a work of genius, since it set up what every earlier political science had thought impossible, a sovereign union of sovereign states. That does not mean that the Constitution was God inspired, as the Mormons would eventually state, Joseph Smith would state, and for some reason, some conservatives believe today. I don't understand that. It is a human document, a child of the Enlightenment, but it was a work of genius. I've tried to make these complicated subjects understandable, and maybe I've failed in doing so. Maybe I've trivialized the important and raised the level to a level of supremacy, the meaningless. But if you can just understand the importance of what was achieved in this country in less than a quarter of a century, I will have done my part. My opinion is apparent throughout all my classes and things I discuss, and I've never read history that was not covered by the opinions, religious beliefs, or political leaning of the historian. Just as there is no such thing as unbiased reporting in journalism, there is no such thing as neutral written history. You are, of course, free to disagree with me, and I encourage your arguments as a way to learn and grow for all of us. So I'd like you to go to the National Archives website and read the Constitution. Just take your time and read the whole thing. I bet you've never done it before. Of course not. Many Christians have never read the Bible through from cover to cover. So, why would Americans read the Constitution? I just hope you'll take that into account, that you need to have read this document, know what it says, understand how important it is, all the way through the documents known as the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution that ratified on December 15th, 1791. You really, those Bill of Rights are important to our political life, and they're always threatened by a government that tries to overreach. Doesn't matter which party is under. So anyway, I thank you for watching, and I hope that you'll study American history, and we'll continue after this.